This is Hyderabad, the historical and legendary city. Deeply steeped in the past, its earliest traces go back to Buddhist era. In the 7th century, it was called Narun Court, after hillock, Narun, over which it was built. When Muhammad bin Qasim conquered Sindh in 712 AD, it was a fortified town. The Raja did not resist and surrendered. Bin Qasim offered peace and appointed a Muslim administrator and moved ahead.
And Hyderabad, right from the beginning, had been an important city, and it had been a capital of the government, especially during the reign of the Kaloras. The capital was shifted from Hyderabad to Hyderabad, and then the Kaloras they built a fortress here in Hyderabad. They made it a city of importance. The graves show about the government of those days. After that, when the Talpurs took over Sindh, they have actually done a lot. This fort, Hyderabad fort, is a very important, which is still there, and we can see it. And this is a very historical fort of the period of the Talpurs. And Talpurs themselves were very literate people. They were poets, they were historians, and they were writers of the first rank. And all the rulers were the poets. Most of the rulers, I should say. And right from Amir Fateh Ali, then Mir Nasir Khan, Mir Karam Ali Khan, Mir Murad Ali Khan, they all were the poets, and their divans or their poetical collections are saved, and they are all written in golden, pure golden water. Hyderabad has always been seat of the government. It has always been a capital and a very important city geographically of Sindh.
In 1768, King Ghulam Shah Kalhoro chose Narun Court as capital and rebuilt fort on its old foundations and named it as Hyderabad. The construction of the fort was completed in 2 months. On fort's main gate was placed an inscription praying, "O God, keep this town in peace." Inside the fort is located Talpur family's Haveli, a museum and a grave of Hoshu Shidi, the great fighter who laid down his life while fighting English army in February 1843.
The Talpur history, in fact, is considered starting from Mir Shadat Khan, who established Shahadadpur in 1712, and he was an influential person even before that. I have these certain documents which Dr. Nabi Baksh Baloch gave to me. Establishment date of around 1712, establishment date of Shahadadpur, and Mir Shahadat Khan. He has been written letters by Farooq Sayar, by Governor of Multan, and he is addressed to as Rifat Pana, which means even more than excellency. So he must have been a very prominent person to have to be entitled to such a title.
There is another fort of mud clay on Western Hillock. It houses Shah Muhammad Makki, a pious person who came from Makkah to Sindh in 11th century. Sheikh Sayyid Muhammad Makki, whose original name was Hamza, migrated to Sindh in 560 after Hijri.
Mir Bahram Khan, under whose supervision, according to Abdul Majid Jokia in his book Tarikh-e Baluchi, which he says that it was under his supervision during rule of Ghulam Shah Kalora that the Hyderabad fort was built. There must have been many forts, talks about Debal, about Bhambur being the Debal or Hyderabad being the Debal. I think actually, in fact, so much distortion of history has taken place in the last century and a half that it is quite impossible to actually locate and find Debal as such.
Badshahi Bangalore. This is a wonderful palace of Prince Mir Hasan Ali Khan Talpur, the son of the last ruler of Hyderabad, His Highness Mir Nasir Khan Talpur. At present, this palace is owned by one of the descendants of Mir Nasir Khan Talpur. It is located in Tando of Talpur Mir, near Latifabad Unit Number 4. The ceiling of the residence of Mir Muhammad Ali Talpur, Tando Mir Mahmud. This is the only Hyderabad 21st century Talpur residence, which has been tastefully renovated in its originality.
Again, there's something, as I said, that history is, there are certain fabricated myths about Talpurs as well. That Talpurs, I think it's Richard Burton who said that the Talpurs, Aludu and Masudu, had come on donkeys and they had, they were tribal people, uneducated, uncouth, uncultured, who had nothing to do with either education or culture, nothing. But that isn't a fact. The people who came here was, as I said, sons of Mir Suleiman Kakko, and they were Mir Hota Khan. He was father of Mir Shadat Khan. It's usually said that the Talpurs were not educated, or they weren't cultured people. I have here a manuscript. It is in fact Gulistan of Sadi, which was commissioned by Mir Mahmud Khan for himself in year 1194 Hijri. That is 2 years before the Talpurs even got to rule Sindh. So they must have been educated people who would take the trouble to have a book of Sadi commissioned for themselves. Unique thing that we have here in our library is it's a book. This was it's a copy of an original book, but this was done by Talpurs of the Bijrari branch. That is the descendants of Mir Bijar. And the thing is that this book is known as Shashjah, means six-dimensional or six-sided. The interesting part or the unique thing is that if you notice, there's a word here in red, then another word, then another word here in red, another word here in red, and another word here in red. This makes 5 red words in each line. Now, if you read this vertically up till the end, this is a separate story. And if you read this line, it is a separate story. Again, same is true of this, and this. And if you read this as a book should be read, this is again a story. But it's another story. All 5 different, there are 6 different stories in this. So, as I said, that Talpurs weren't, after all, as illiterate and uncouth and uncultured as is supposed to be.
Since it became an enterprising city, artisans and professionals settled here. The old localities are still identified by their names, such as Kasayan Jopado, the Butchers' Colony, Sipahiyan Jopado, the Soldiers' Colony, and Vadhan Jopado, the Carpenters' Colony.
I was talking about history. There are certain misperceptions or misconstructions of history as well. Mostly, it is said that Bartle Frere, he started the Sindhi script, and it was after him that Sindhi became a language, which is quite incorrect, historically incorrect, factually incorrect. And there is a book which is 1190, that is during the Kaloda rule. It's a book in Sindhi which has got Sindhi writing, which can be read even by today people who are, though there is a difference of certain words only, but saying that it was Bartle Frere who started Sindhi as a language is a historical distortion which is unacceptable and which I contradict with every word that I can use to support me. It is here, this Sindhi book, which proves it, that what people usually believe that it was Bartle Frere who started Sindhi script and started the Sindhi language are wrong. And in this very book, I had found a page which, along with some Quranic verse written on the top, there is Sindhi alphabet. There are quite a few words which are not in use in Sindhi now, and there are certain words which are still in use. And there were additional certain words. Bartle Frere, even if he did help, if he did help change a little bit, it must have been with help of Sindhi scholars, saying that it was he who was the originator of Sindhi language. I don't think it's historically correct or acceptable as a fact. Sindh, it should be remembered, used to pay tribute to the Mughals as well, and it was after the Talpurs came that they resisted the tribute to Afghans as well as to the Mughals, and it was they that established different forts in Naukote. Hyderabad fort, as I said, was built during Kaloda rule but under supervision of Mir Bahram Khan. Then there is Rani Court, then there is Diji Fort and Islam Court, quite a few as outposts built by Talpurs because they intended to make Sindh a sovereign state.
One of the most striking features of Hyderabad was its peculiar skyline dominated by wind catchers. These wind catchers, or mung, as they are called in local Sindhi language, were fixed on housetops to catch the southwesterly breeze in the hot summer days and evenings. The breeze entering the wind catchers would penetrate into the room and keep it cool. Due to the numerous wind catchers, Hyderabad became famous as Mangan Jo Shahar, or city of wind catchers. Like all the traditional and historical abodes, Hyderabad too has a number of places revered by the people. For instance, Kadamgah is associated with the footprints of Hazrat Ali. Inscribed on a stone were later gifted by the Iranian ruler to the Talpurs. It was placed in the Kadamgah Maula Ali. By the side lies the mausoleum of Sheikh Abdul Wahab Jilani, which became a place of pilgrimage for many people. and it continues to be even today. Similarly, the grave of Ashabi Baba in front of the main gate of Pakka Killa is attributed, the length of which is some 30 feet. In one of the oldest localities of Tando Agha lies an Imam Barga, which houses the oldest tazia gifted by the Thalpur rulers in 18th century. The English after takeover added civic amenities. The railway line in 1861 changed the face of the town. New residential colonies came up, business houses established, and industrial activities increased. Hyderabad forms the center of many small and big towns and villages around it. As the population rose, its main bazaar extended, and today this Shahi Bazaar is the longest bazaar in Asia. The visitor of Hyderabad must go to see and shop in these narrow lane bazaars, which are several kilometers long. The word Shahi is derived from the word Shah, which means kings. This bazaar is known as Shahi Bazaar. It was first established by Kalhoro ruler, who changed the capital of Sindh from Khudabad to Hyderabad, and persuaded many traders to come and start trading at this bazaar. It starts from the very gate of Pakko Kilo Fort and extends up to the naval Rai Clock Tower. The Resham Ghitti is lateral extension of Shahi Bazaar. Large variety of glass bangles, Sindhi kundan, gold jewelry, as well as imitation jewelry can be bought from Resham Ghitti. In 1947, a large number of uprooted people from India found Hyderabad as their new home. To make room for them, the forest adjoining town was cut to raise a new colony named Latifabad. With the rise in population, the city is now adding new colonies and housing complexes. Besides becoming an industrial state, a number of cottage industries, especially the bangle, khadi and shoemaking, were established. In 1954, when Bhavani Junction was filmed in Pakistan, the Hollywood actress Ava Gardner broke her journey and bought a huge number of shoes and bangles. Before independence, Hyderabad added new sources of entertainment, especially that of music concerts, stage plays, and later the cinema houses. The new Majestic Cinema, built as a theatre in 1918, is the oldest entertainment house in the country. Hyderabad has also been home to noted people in almost all fields of life, from politicians to poets. Hyderabad has remained a flourishing nursery. These figures took the name of the town to the farthest places. Hyderabad has remained a great center of music, Homestead Hall, which served as a community center and an auditorium. Here great musicians lived and performed. This place was also the venue of music concerts called Handa. Besant Hall is another building serving as a community center, an auditorium, and a library. Besant Hall was established by Mrs. Annie Besant of Home Rule League political party. In recent decades, Abda Parveen, Alan Faqir, and Faqir Abdul Ghafoor are a few who brought laurels to the city. The city also gave Pakistan some of the great artists in performing arts, such as film actors Muhammad Ali, Mustafa Qureshi, Latif Saqi, radio, television, and stage players like Mushtaq Mughal, Qurban Jilani, and Anwar Solanki. The greatest being Dr. Sippy, who after migration to India made history in filmmaking. Hyderabad has seen a glorious past. After independence, with the rise of population, depleting income sources, and successive fall of governments. The local administration also failed to maintain quality of civic life. Today, the city lacks almost all facilities that it once had. If no remedial actions are taken, it will lose its few amenities it has now.